And we are live. What's up, guys? This is Ruben Dua from Dubb's podcast Connection Loop. For those of you guys that do not know, Dubb is a video communication platform. We allow people to quickly create, share, and track videos across all channels. We have a Gmail integration, LinkedIn integration, a lot of really cool stuff to help you leverage video to grow your business. So today I have Terry Lancaster with me. And before we actually clicked record, we were talking about this idea of creation being very destructive, because the studio that I'm sitting in has been built and then destroyed and then built and then destroyed probably about 3 to 4 times now with all the different upgrades that we have. But it's all good because every time it gets a little bit better. And I've been personally still able to be kind of productive in that process. So I hope you guys are really enjoying whatever it is that you're doing to upgrade your lives, whether it's technology or process. Terry has some really good tips and tricks, some really good insight. Let's get into this. Terry, I'd love to understand your origin story, trials and tribulations, purpose.
The whole thing. Well, I tell you, my trials and tribulations when I'm speaking, really introduce myself. The intro usually starts like this. I've survived cancer twice. I've had a gun held to my head. I've had a knife held to my throat. I've been on one boat that sank, one airplane I was 100% sure was about to crash. Got thrown out of another. Went 200 yards down a class 4 rapids, elbow over tea kettle. Survived 3 teenage daughters, and I've been selling hot air to car dealers for the last 30 years. So that's my backstory.
Wow. And out of all of that, what has been the hardest thing? The teenagers?
Three teenage daughters, hands down. Nothing even comes close.
Well, I'm not quite there yet. I've got a 15-month-old daughter.
Oh my goodness.
And a 6-year-old son, so I've got a ways to go, but I hear that.
Yeah. It is a long, hard road. It's worth every step, but it challenges in ways you can't even begin to imagine.
I can imagine. So, I mean, what would you say your origin story is? You know, from a business perspective, what put you where you are right now?
Well, I started in the business world. In college, I was a disc jockey. I paid my way through college as a top 40 disc jockey, and I realized working at the radio station that the radio business wasn't about the music and it wasn't about the disc jockeys, because all the people who drove the nicest cars were all working in the sales department. So I started working when I graduated from college. I started selling radio advertising, and I did that for a few years. And all of my best customers, this has been a while, so all of my best customers were car dealerships. 3 out of 4 spots on the radio at that time were car dealerships. So I spent a lot of time working with car dealerships, and after about 10 years of doing that, I jumped out on my own and started an advertising agency doing nothing but selling advertising to car dealerships. And we work with car dealerships from Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan to Miami, Florida. But talking about creative destruction, the world changes, you know, whether it's having kids or building a new studio or the internet coming along, things change. And 10 years ago, the advertising business changed dramatically because of the internet. And specifically because of social media. The Google put the newspaper business out of business, and that really disrupted my business because the car dealers were spending huge amounts of money in the newspaper at the time. And I started looking at the changes that had gone on, and I had gotten ahead of the curve with some of the newspaper advertising that we were doing and the ability to reach the far-flung corners of the universe via the internet. So I started looking at what's next, what's around the curve, and I decided that because of lots of things, and this is happening in a lot of industries, you have margin compression. The internet has compressed the margin because our customers know everything before they reach out to us. But at the same time, so they don't have to reach out and talk to a salesperson until they know what they're going to buy, until they're ready to raise their hand.
Yeah, you know, one of my new friends, she calls that pre-framing.
Yeah.
Where most customers are pre-framed. They have a full understanding, or at least a partial understanding, of what it is that they're getting into and what problem they're trying to solve. That makes sense.
Yeah, so things get pre-framed rightly or wrongly, and sometimes it's bad information, but all it does is compress the margins, and it ends up shifting some of the margin from the retailer to whatever internet provider sent them to the retailer that they found on the internet. In the car business, they're called third-party lead generation providers. They basically siphon off the demand from the internet and send it to the dealers. But at the same time, people like to do business with people. And every salesperson in the universe has a phone in their hand and has the ability to connect with thousands and thousands and thousands of potential customers and develop relationships with them that last before they pre-frame everything about your business and last much longer after they drive by, after the completion of the sale, so that you can maintain a relationship to get better reviews and more referrals and more repeat business. And it's kind of like the old way of doing business when everyone had a Rolodex on their desk. But now we have a telephone with thousands and thousands and thousands of contacts on there, and we just have to use that phone to communicate with, to create content with, to pre-frame our customers the way we want them to be pre-framed.
And I suspect that such a big part of your business is not just teaching how to sell, but teaching how to sell and then retain and avoid churn and to evangelize and have referrals come in. It's like a garden.
It's very Eastern, it's Asian and Confucian, because the word is wu wei. It's selling without selling. It is just being there and building the relationships. And yes, there's a sales component, and the end result is selling. But a lot of times the activity isn't selling; it's relationship building. It's relationships that start before the sale and continue after the sale.
And what would you say that the paradigm shift has been towards this wu wei, towards this selling without selling? What took place and what's working, frankly?
Well, what's working, and you know this as well as any human being on the face of the earth. What's working is video. What's working is video messaging, because you have the ability to communicate with far-flung people with eyeballs and a smiling face, and nothing can build a relationship and build that human component into it like looking at another human being in the eye. And we have the ability to do that, through mass communication on social media, where we're creating Facebook Lives and uploading videos to LinkedIn and creating our content that's educating and entertaining our customers. And we have the ability to do that one-on-one through video messaging services like Dubb, where we're communicating one-on-one with our customers with direct human content, eyeball to eyeball, face to face, belly to belly.
Well, I mean, you're really speaking my language. I mean, I think that my most important catalyst moment was when I was early on in the early days, when I was working with someone, a sales leader, someone that is, a closer, someone that provides a lot of value. He was struggling. He wasn't getting callbacks. He was getting really flustered because competitors were just sort of eating his lunch. Right. And I think the reason of that was because he wasn't out there enough and he wasn't creating connections. He was following up like a beast, but he wasn't really, to your earlier point, creating those connections and building those long-term relationships and really providing value. And I think that was an eye-opening experience for me, because watching the numbers go up and then ultimately down, and then realize that, hey, listen, there's a problem in the marketplace right now. I mean, what is the problem? The problem is trust, really, at least from my perspective. But the solution to that is just bringing humanization back to our communication and bringing authenticity and just bringing real life moments where it's not about what we're saying, it's how we're saying it and who we are as a person.
Yeah, and my big thing is a lot of it is not only what we're saying and how we're saying it, it's when we're saying it, because people want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
But it's hard to build that at the point of sale. It's hard to build that at that zero moment of truth when they've already pre-framed the conversation, and they're going to have this conversation. They've already made up their mind. This is what we're going to do. This is how much we're going to spend. These are the things we want. You have to be the robot to facilitate that. And what I encourage people to do is to build that human connection by educating, entertaining, and empathizing with people much, much earlier in the process, to meet people way at the very top of the funnel and try to help guide them along the way down, instead of sitting there at the bottom. And that's what happened in the car business. We got so used to picking those apples at the bottom of the funnel, that low-hanging fruit that was just easy money, baby.
That sweet fruit.
all you got to do is just reach up and pick it right off the vine. Yeah. But now, by the time it gets to that point, if they don't know, like, and trust you by that point, they're not going to know, like, and trust you, because you're just a salesperson. You're not a human.
If the baby has candy in this day and age, it's locked in a safe. No one knows the code. No one's taking that candy from that baby when it comes to low-hanging fruit. It's changed.
Yeah,
it's changed.
The market is 100% changed, and the people who are changing with it are reaping huge rewards, because we have this amazing technology. But there are a lot of people still fighting it that want to do business the way they did business 10, 20 years ago. And it's a whole different world.
I mean, the advice that I'd love to get from you is that you're sold on this. You're ahead of the game, right? I'm impressed. The challenge that I have from a marketing perspective, from a sales perspective, and I'll use a metaphor that we always use here, is that when we try to sell health food to people who are not into eating healthy, it's very challenging. Now, if someone is sold on video, i.e. health food, that's an easy sale for us. Our close rate's like 80%.
Low hanging fruit, baby, low hanging fruit.
Right. So, but we as a business start to think about scale. How do we actually branch out to larger, bigger audiences? And listen, we're focused. We have our eye on the ball, eye on the prize, big time, and we have this audience. You know, it's about 5% of the overall sales and marketing audience. I think that's the percentage right now that believes in investing into next generation technology. That's where we're at.
Right.
But I start to think as we start to grow and as we start to advertise and find people out there in the wild that are not the low hanging fruit, how do we educate, entertain, empathize, and then obviously provide a value to them and get them to subscribe, sign on the dotted line, if you will. So this is something I think about.
Well, you and me both, because we're out there peddling stuff that we're peddling fruit that maybe is not 100% ripe. Everyone's not ready for it.
Right.
It tastes a little bitter in their mind.
Right.
And I've gone through this. I'm on the training end of things. I'm training them to use these strategies, and you're providing the tools to help implement these strategies. So we're on different sides of the ball, but we're doing the same thing.
Right.
And the thing is, one, obviously you have to find the low hanging fruit. That's always the holy grail. You got to find that 5%, the people who are looking for it.
Yeah.
But also we have to do exactly what we're doing here. We have to continue to educate people and hope each time we do something like this, someone else picks up the ball. But the main thing is we have to keep it brain dead simple. We have to keep it so simple and so obvious that people can't not do it. That we have to make video messaging and relationship building seem like such a simple, obvious thing that it would be crazy not to do anything. And the only way I know to do that is keep preaching, man. Just keep preaching.
Well, I mean, what you're describing is probably my number one weakness, because when I describe something, I over-articulate it. I start using charts and graphs and analogies and all sorts of just interesting, colorful ways to describe something. I remember in the early days when I used to describe Dubb, it would be like, it was very convoluted. It would be like, well, we're a technology that allows you to capture videos and then without production, allow you to distribute them, and blah. It was like a whole ordeal. And now I realized through a long process of really, understanding simplicity is, you need to add trust. You need to humanize with the people on the other side of that phone or that email account that you have. The only way for you to do that, unless you can meet them in person at a coffee shop, at your office, their office, is to share your life and to share yourself and show how intelligent you are and how much you care. Empathy. Video is the solution. It's super easy. Click a button in Gmail, click a button in LinkedIn. It's done. It works. You will drive sales. That's not even perfect. I'm still working on that pitch, but it's been a process. I love the fact that you really understand the idea of simplicity. That's not easy.
Yeah, because everyone thinks it's complicated, because we've got in our hands a more powerful camera than anything CBS News owned 15 years ago.
Right. Those Betamax cameras on the shoulder, those things are crazy.
Right. So, we have this amazing technology, and people are still a little afraid of it. And the other thing that's interesting to me is, coming from an advertising background, I spent years and years and years. I produced television commercials, and we spliced them together and spent big money on editors and big money on effects, and we wanted everything to look highly professional and highly produced, and we used the big voiceover, the big voiceover in the background.
In a world where things don't really matter.
Exactly. And what's funny is the world has changed, and people look at that as inauthentic. And if you start slapping that stuff up on Facebook or slapping that into people's inboxes, They're
Right.
gonna go, what's this crap? I don't need that. That's another ad. We have advertising overload, and people will just scroll right past it. So the most effective thing you can do is reach out on your phone, hit that button, and say, "Hey, man, I was just thinking about you. I saw this." And
That's
this
cool.
when I'm training people, people, I don't like the way I sound. I don't like the way I look. I go, listen, your mama don't care about the way you sound or the way you look. So send your mama a message. Call your mama. Send your mama a video message right now. Tell her that you love her. Let's just break the ice.
Right.
Send your mama a message and tell her that you love her. It'll make her day, and she'll be happy no matter how bad a hair day you're having. Jump in. Let's get it done.
Well, someone said it. I'm trying to remember who said this, but I think Gina said this. My friend Gina. She said, listen, if you don't like the way that you look on video, you don't like the way you look in real life. And there's
Right.
a problem there.
Right.
Because gone are the days where video adds 10 pounds. I have not heard someone say that. I don't work in the TV industry. Maybe that happens with actors, and maybe that's so. I don't think that's the case with that webcam and that phone on my desk.
Right.
So, if someone does feel that way, there's a bigger problem, but I would say there's actually no problem at all,
Yeah.
because life is not life. Life is how we perceive life. And when we look at ourselves on video, that's all of our perception from
Right.
preconceived notions, and a lot of that stuff just has to go. It took me a process to get over that, and just to not care
Yeah.
and say, this is what I look like, combed hair or not,
Yeah.
but it's not easy for everyone. I must say that.
Well, it's not easy for anyone, but we get simple and easy mixed up. Just because it's not easy doesn't mean it's
Yes.
not simple. The
Right.
only the only
Exactly.
way to the only way to do it is to do it, and the only way to
Right.
get comfortable is to do it more. Do it
Well, I mean,
today.
there's a paradox in there, because some of the simplest things are not the easiest things, and vice versa. There's this crazy
Exactly.
paradox, because you're right. You click a red little button, record a button, send it to someone, and build a relationship. But that can take people years to get comfortable doing.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Chinese proverb is the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago, and the second best time is today.
Yeah.
The best time to get started was 5 years ago. You'd be really comfortable and really good at it by now. You missed that
Right.
boat. Let's look at where we are today.
We've thought about this a lot. I mean, there's actually a lot of tech on Dubb that we've implemented to have empathy to people hey, listen, it's 4 o'clock in the morning. They're wearing their pajamas. They want to get something to a client, to a prospect, screen video, whatever. You don't have to show yourself. You can turn the webcam off. There's just a screen share open, a screen
Right.
share only option with your LinkedIn picture, or just an image that you upload.
Right.
So you can control that environment if that's what you want. I mean, we're all about meeting people where they are. So if it takes time for people, that's cool too. But at some point, you got to get comfortable with it.
I tell people, if you use the video messaging feature on Facebook or Instagram or any of the others, they've got the video messaging, and you can put the filter on there. You can have a duck face or a rabbit
Oh yeah,
with
right.
you can hide your face. It's,
Yeah.
but get started. Whatever it takes to get started, get started.
Nice. So speaking of duck faces, do you think that business videos eventually should have that level of customization, personalization, quote unquote fun? I mean, that's tech that we can build,
Oh,
right now.
100%, I do. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Maybe not the donkey face with the big tongue,
Right.
but right now, yeah, we think about that. Please keep in touch with ideas that you have, because I really like your perspective on this.
Well, the big thing I tell everyone is the most important thing is have fun. Be
Yeah.
yourself and have fun. And so I tell a lot of people, hey, go if you're freaked out about recording a video, go onto YouTube and watch a couple of minutes of a comedy, some kind of comedy clip, just to put you in a good mood, just to make you laugh and just to make you smile. Take a deep breath, smile, and turn on the button, because
Mm.
there's nothing worse than over seriousing a word, over complicating and making things more serious than they have to be. And if you get all serious, you're going to sound all serious, and you're going to look all serious, and you're going to look, you're going to look unfriendly and mean. So just have fun. And I don't care if you're talking to the janitor or the GM, the CEO or wherever. Everybody
Yeah.
likes to smile. Just smile. Maybe you
Right.
don't send the CEO a donkey face with a tongue or something, but you still want to have a good time. You still want to be smiling, laughing, being human.
Yeah, I got a video pitch yesterday from someone on LinkedIn, and Actually, they used Dubb, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But they rapped. It was a rap pitch.
Right. Yeah.
And I responded immediately. I listened to it and I responded. I was impressed. I was like,
If
wow.
if that's who you are and you can spit rhymes that make sense and catch their attention,
Right.
spit them, man.
Exactly. Exactly. So you mentioned some things that you went through as an individual personally.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking a lot about mortality. I've been thinking a lot about how fragile life is. I mean, I'm from Los Angeles. This whole town is shook up right now from Kobe's death,
Oh yeah.
right? I got to bring it up. And, I realized when I first read that headline, I realized what a way to go on a helicopter. I mean, he's been riding helicopters for decades. That's his method of transportation. That was not some opulent affair per se. He wasn't driving one of those cars behind you down PCH 100 miles an hour. That's not what he was doing. He was just
Right.
getting
He was commuting.
he was commuting in an
Yeah.
efficient way with, family and friends and whatnot. And I think through some of the experiences that you mentioned, in being close to death, what are some things that you've kind of realized along the way with how we should live our lives?
I've come to a very stoic response for this. And actually, up there, I've got a book that I wrote about 5 years ago called Better Self-Help for the Rest of Us. And I didn't even know what stoic meant when I wrote that book. But it turns out that I'd written a kind of a stoic manifesto, which is 2,000-year-old philosophy. And Marcus Aurelius, who was the godfather of Stoicism, says, do not live as if you're going to live 10,000 years. Is your life that precious? I don't. What I've come to realize is life is extremely precious, but we're not going to live 10,000 years, and
Yeah.
our memories aren't going to live 10,000 years, and our legacy is not going to live 10,000 years. And the only thing that matters is how we're living our lives today.
Right.
Today is what matters because you could be gone tomorrow.
Right.
So if you get and worry is just pain moved forward. So if you're worried about dying and you're worried about death is inevitable. Death
Yeah.
is coming for you. I don't care who you are. Kobe Bryant. He's got all the money. He's got he's lived an amazing life, but death came for him. Death is coming for everyone, and you don't have to be ready for it, but you have to know it's coming. And the way you honor that, and I tell people this, that's the reason there is such a thing as death. If we all live forever, life would be meaningless. There'd be no expiration date on it. There'd be no sense of urgency. We'd never savor. Without the salty, there's no sweet. And so death has to exist for us to honor living. And the way to honor living is to live today and not worry about death.
And you mentioned something that was kind of poignant. You said pain is more. Say that again, please.
Worry is pain moved forward. So
Worry is pain moved forward. What does that mean?
Yeah. So you're worried about the pain of death and the pain of loss and the pain of losing everything. All the things that you worry about, losing your family, losing your business, dying, being sickly, getting old. All of those things exist in the future. But if you're worrying about them, you're making them today's problem. You're making tomorrow's problem today's problem. And one of the things I say in the book, we spend most of our lives letting an imaginary there and then screw up a perfectly good here and now. So we let all these things that might happen at some point in the future screw up this moment right here. And this moment right here is all we got. We need to live it big and loud and bold and beautiful and here now, and not worry about that, because that's either going to happen or it's not going to happen, and maybe we can fix it, maybe we can't fix it. But dying is one we're never going to fix. That's happening. No use worrying about it. It's coming. Just live.
And why would you say we're a lot of us are stuck in that cycle?
Because that's what our brains do. We have these that's the entire purpose of our brains is a reality simulation machine. So
Yeah.
we simulate all these realities, and we worry about the future, and we also have our regrets for the past, and we're overplaying the things that happened in our past, and it's easy for our brain to get stuck in those loops. You
Right.
get stuck in those loops, worrying and regretting and doing all that, and it's very hard. The hardest thing is to just be here,
Yeah.
to live this moment, and because this moment, maybe it's not as exciting as the imaginary moment that we had in the head when the guy honked at us in the BMW, and we're imagining having the big argument with him. That's more exciting than we that. So our brain goes off down these rabbit holes instead of living in this plain, ordinary, beautiful moment that we're living in right now.
Well, I mean, I think that's a product of the human brain not being as evolved as it should be, because coming from the reptilian kind of survival based mindset, fight, flight, freeze, the way that we react, we still quote unquote suffer from a lot of that thinking, where
Yeah.
it takes a minute to use that different part of our brain, our limbic that provides us thought and logic,
Yeah.
and I think about that. It's almost like we need to evolve a little bit faster as a human race to keep up with, being more transcendent and being more mindful. I mean, I think this is why I think meditation it's so huge, and just general mindfulness, because it allows us to realize that there's something much bigger than us, and that the problems that we're facing, life as a whole is a perception. Our life to us is a perception of what life is. It's not what life is per se. Everyone has a different perception of it,
Yeah.
But God, it's tough to transcend to that. It's easy.
And you want to have people look at you like you got three heads, man. Walk into a car dealership with 20 salespeople, and you're training them, and you suggest to them, hey, you should try meditation. And these are all type A, alpha dogs, and it's like,
Right.
But here's one thing. I've interviewed the number one salesperson number one car salesperson in the world, and he sells. The average car salesperson sells 10 cars a month. He sells about 200 cars a month, anywhere between 150 and 200 cars a month.
Where is this person based?
Dearborn, Michigan.
Wow.
Ollie Rita in Dearborn, Michigan, and he tells me the most. Everybody wants to know his trick. What's your trick? How do you do this? What are the magic words that you say? What's the magic beans that you use? What's the tool? What's the trick, man? And he'll tell me. He said the only trick is realizing that there's no more important person in the world than the one person right in front of you.
Ooh.
And if you can make everything else go away and devote all of your attention and all of your mindfulness and all of your energy into making that person feel important, feel respected, feel loved, everything else take care of itself.
So, but I mean, how can the numbers? How can he get those numbers? I mean, there's leads that you need. When people, only a certain number of people are walking onto a lot.
Yeah,
I mean,
but he doesn't deal with people walking on the lot. He deals with people coming in to see Ollie, because he's way past the pre-framing stage, because he's dealing with second and third generation people that he's dealt with.
So he has a brand. He's built a brand.
Yeah, he's built an enterprise, because he has generations and generations and families who send their whole family to him. And because they know, like, and trust him, and they don't go on the internet and pre-frame the conversation. Their conversation is, let's go see Ollie. When it comes to time to buy a car, let's go see Ollie, because he's built these relationships over the last couple of decades, and he's built it by being present with each and every person one at a time right there in front of him. So if somebody walks on the lot to buy a car, he shakes their hand, how you doing, and he introduces them to a salesperson who doesn't have that. People walking off the streets, he doesn't deal with that. When people come to buy a car, they come to buy from him.
I mean, that's powerful. Isn't that the dream?
That's the goal.
To us.
That's
people
the
just
goal.
come to us. We've invested into ourselves. We've invested into our network. We've provided a ton of value, and now we're reaping the benefits. How do you get to that point?
Well, you have to do it. You have to start. First of all, that's the simple answer. You have to start, and you start by taking care of one. If the people aren't coming to see you, take care of the people that you do get to see. Make sure you're taking care of them. Make sure you're devoting all of your attention one-on-one to them, and making sure that you continue to stay in their life. I was talking to a salesperson last night. He called me, and he's at this point, he's been in the business like 8 years. But he's about to change. He's going out on his own, and he's doing some things. And I said, okay, well, you've got 8 years worth of customers that you need to call up. He said, no, I really don't, because for 8 years I practiced the 3 C's delivery method. I'd never heard this. I said, the 3 C's delivery method? He said, yeah, that's right. See the keys, see the car, see you later. He didn't want anything to do with them. He didn't want anything to do with them after the sale. So So he sent all these people packing, and now he's looking back. He had 8 years worth of customers that he could be farming and fishing and working from, but he let that all slip ahead. So he has to start now building those relationships with the people that he is working with, devoting all his time and attention to them, and make a concerted effort to remain in their lives.
See the
Not to
keys, see the cars, see you later.
See you later. You have to make a concerted effort to remain in their lives, not to follow up, not to do all the things the CRM says, but just remain in their
Yeah.
lives to maintain that trust.
Huh. You mentioned, speaking of listicles, you mentioned the 3 E's: educating, entertaining, and empathizing.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, and when I ask this, of course, I'm being a little bit facetious, but hey, we're business people. We're not here to entertain other people.
You know, I hear that a lot. Well, I hear people say, well, how does that benefit me? Well,
Yeah.
so the short answer is, and this has been the answer from time immemorial, is it ain't about you.
Mm.
It ain't about you. So what's in it for you? Nobody cares what's in it for you. You better care what's in it for them. And they better be able to feel that you care what's in it for them. And it goes back to Zig Ziglar, the 50s or 60s. You can get anything you want out of life if you help enough other people get what they want.
Yes.
And I've decided people don't come to buy cars. People, it doesn't matter what you sell. It doesn't matter where you sell it. It matters who you are and how you make people feel. And you have to make people feel trusted. We live in such a fragmented society, and going back to the mindfulness stuff and all the notifications on our phone, we're all stressed all the time, and our families are fragmented, and we have our social lives are fragmented, and people are just looking for when you practice that mindfulness and presence in people feel it, and people respond to it because they're not used to it so much. And that's one of the things I believe, that's what people are looking for, much more than they're looking for a new car or a new watch or a new iPhone. People are looking for a moment of connection. They're looking for a friend. And if you can make people feel that, it doesn't matter what you're selling. People are going to be drawn to you and want to hear what you say and want to be with you, want to be near you, want to listen to you.
So you've got some perspective on this. You're obviously a high level thinker. A lot of people in sales, a lot of people in business, they have a goal, right? They've got a quarterly goal, let's just say. They've got a pipeline. They have to hit a number. They got to pay their bills. They got mortgages and expenses. And it's difficult to exist on a high level, because a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, it's a medium to long-term ROI.
100%. Right? Yep.
And it's the best ROI, and it's the gift that keeps giving, but it's a long game, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of people can't, and I've been there dozens of times in my life, if not more. You can't jump from this idea where I need to fulfill needs, maintain responsibility for my obligations, pay the bills, but then also have a high mindset, high level of thinking where I can do these great things that you're talking about. How do you solve that problem?
Well, you solve it one customer at a time, and this is what I tell new car salespeople, especially. If you're in a situation and you want to get to that point, the best way to start is with the next person in front of you. People are coming into the lot, and maybe Joe Blow comes in to buy a car. He's not there to see you. He doesn't know you from Adam. But here's your opportunity to start the process, to plant the seed, to let the tree grow. Start with that guy in front of you and build a relationship with him. And then the next person that comes in, build a relationship with them. And you start by doing the job you were hired to do right now. That means selling, then sell to the people in front of you. But make sure you're giving them your all. Make sure you're giving them yourself, your authentic you, and make sure you're continuing to stay in their lives the best way that you can.
So is this coming from you as a Mensa high IQ guy? Or is this coming from you as boots to the ground, experience, getting out there, making mistakes, learning things? Give me some perspective here.
Well, I think being the Mensa high IQ guy has done more damage in my life than it ever it ever helped me. I spent a lot of years as the sales guy, and one, I thought I was smart. I didn't have to do all these other things, and things were going to work out for me okay. And I went at things. I think all the my modern perspective, my new me, comes from my 50 years of living boots on the ground and going through cancer twice and raising three daughters and seeing the changes in business. And I think the IQ thing kind of helped me a little bit to understand what's happening in business. And here's the thing, from a boots on the ground perspective. If you're an average salesperson and maybe you don't understand some of the things I'm talking about, or you don't buy any of the unicorn rainbow mumbo jumbo that I'm spitting, if you're an average salesperson, a robot's going to take your job. In the next 5 years, there's going to be a robot come in and do your job much cheaper than you are. There's going to be robots. There's going to be chatbots. There's going to be people who are flattening the process. The corporations are trying to compress. The margins are getting compressed because of the pre-framing. And there's robots. There's robots to do the simple stuff. The one thing that the robots can't do and never will be able to do is build a human relationship. That's the only thing that you've got. That's the only trick left in your bag, and we need to start using it. And I think all of this came from 50 years of observation and 50 years of mellowing out and learning to meditate and start accepting the way things are instead of fighting for things the way I wanted things to be.
Well, I think there was this. This reminds me of a quote actually from recently that I stumbled upon, which is that it's much easier to maintain your principles 100% of the time than it is 98% of the time.
Yeah.
And when you have a model, a method by which you live and that you invest in, you build relationships on and grow your business through, that idea of structure and commitment is, I think once you make it, it's the best ROI. It's the best investment that you can make, because as you start to, it's kind of like working out. You work out for 3 months, 6 months, you get healthy, you feel healthy, and then you start to let it go.
Yeah.
And you say, I don't need to work out anymore. I don't need to meditate anymore. I don't need to eat healthy anymore. I'm good. I got my six pack. I feel good. And then you let it go, and then you're back in that cycle. But it seems like a lot of this is commitment, it's cadence, it's repetition. How do you recommend that people stay in this mindset and don't jump out of it and go back to kind of bad methods?
The same way I recommend for everything. Well, again, as salespeople and business leaders and entrepreneurs, we're all hard-charging type A kind of people, and we think we're masters of the universe and we control our destiny. The thing I've always heard is your life is a product of the decisions that you make. A lot of salespeople would love that and believe that, and I find that to be patently false. Because your life is not a product of the decisions that you make, because we decide stuff every day. We decide stuff every day, but we don't do it. We decide stuff every day, but we don't stick to it.
So you're coming at this from action.
From action. It's 100%. What you think and what you decide has got nothing to do with nothing. And the end result, we can't control the end results from anything. So part of it's letting go of these end results and accepting the things that we can control, which are the actions that we take, and taking actions on a daily basis until they become habits. One step at a time, one day in front of the other. I've run a mile every single day for the last 5 years in a row. One step in front of the other, one step at a time. And you make these things into habits. You make sending video messages your habit until you can't not do it. You make continuing to stay in your customers' lives a habit until you can't not do it. And you have to start small, but you have to start now, and you have to do it every single day. That's how you get past the ups and the downs.
That's knowledge right there. If we can get ourselves into a place where it becomes our reality, and this is what we do every single day, then not doing that is what starts to feel uncomfortable.
All right. Yeah.
Right.
100%. Yeah. It is completely uncomfortable when you get thrown out of that. But part of it is letting go of this idea that we have control of the outcome. We don't have control of outcomes. We only have control of inputs, and we have to make the inputs be a habit, whether the input's working out or sending a video message.
Right, but I think then the additional kind of factor here is evolution. You
Yeah.
know, we're talking about next generation technology. We're talking about cool stuff. Um, every year, every 2 years, every 3 years, there's going to be something cool out there, something shiny that's going to help us do our jobs better. Mostly for the good. I mean, that's how tech works, right? So how do we get into cadence, follow good practices, not fall off the horse, still have the ability to fail, learn from our mistakes, keep going, persevere, stay positive. I mean, this is a multifaceted process here.
Yeah. Well, again, the big thing for me is just is letting go, is being is
Letting go.
letting go
What do you mean by that?
well, one, because the world changes so fast, letting go of this idea that you have any control over it. We're all just hanging. And this is 100% the lesson I learned from having three going through three teenage daughters. We're not in charge. We are along for the ride, and all we can do is buckle up and hang on. The
Right.
world's going to change. The world's going to change in 2 years. The world's going to change in 3 years. The world is constantly changing, and we're not in charge. There's nothing we can do to stop that. Just like we're all going to die. We're going to die. The world's going to change. You're never going to change that. There's no use fighting it. And we want to hang on to to what's worked for us. We've been doing something one way for 10, 15, 20 years. We
Right.
want to hang on to that. That was good stuff. I made a lot of money doing this, but the world
Yeah.
changed. And
So
so
so speaking of child rearing, teenage daughters specifically, do you believe in reverse psychology?
Um, you know what? I never really I never really. I'm sure it works. I would think it works when you tell people. I know it works when you tell people they can't have stuff. That's the entire. I spent decades in advertising. That's the whole purpose of putting a deadline on something. If you don't do this by Friday, you can't do this. Sale in Saturday. Sunday, you're
Yeah.
out of luck.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Reverse psychology works. People are motivated by greed or fear. They're and the fear of missing out is the biggest fear. So if you tell people they can't have something, they can't do something, then that is a powerful motivator. I never really tried to practice that so much in my children's life, other than taking away their Barbies. I guess that's reverse psychology. If you don't clean up the Barbies, I'm gonna throw them away.
Right.
So
And the modern version of a Barbie is probably the cell phone with the Snapchat or Instagram.
oh yeah, 100%.
Right. I mean, I will give a shout out to Barbie because they've evolved a lot as a company.
They
Speaking of
they have.
evolution,
Yeah.
because there's racial diversity, there's career diversity, there's all different types of characters, different body types,
Yeah.
figures. That's a process. I do appreciate that. So here's one for you. So reading, okay, you got a lot of books behind you.
I do.
Leaders are readers, okay?
Yep. I think so.
Who has time to read? Okay, I'm too busy. I'm working. I'm selling. I'm building relationships. I'm out there. I also have work-life balance. I'm with my kids. How do I
Yeah.
read? Is this
Well,
idea of reading is reading a literal thing where we have a book, or is reading now conversing, sharing ideas, listening podcasts? What's your take on this?
Well, I think reading is feeding the brain, and whatever it takes to feed the brain. Now, I have these books behind me, but all the books behind me most of the time, because I don't have as much time to read as I would like to. In a perfect world, I would read a whole lot more. But since I don't necessarily have the time, the one thing way I force myself to do it is by interviewing authors on my podcast. I have a
Nice.
podcast, the Get You Some radio show. So I'll invite authors on, and if I'm going to interview them about the book, I got to read the book. So it forces me to do it. But what I do is then I'm creating that content and I'm pushing that content out in the world, and hopefully I'm feeding some other people's head who maybe they didn't get a chance to read Marketing Rebellion by Mark Schaefer, which is a great book. Or read The Go Giver by Bob Berg, who I've interviewed on my show. And maybe if they're not readers, I can still implant some of that knowledge through my content that I put out on social media and through my podcast that I'm pushing out, and just trying to get that information into their brains to help those neurons fire for them, however fires their neurons.
Well, I'll give you a pitch. I want to send you a free copy of my soon-to-be released book on Amazon. It's called Click Record.
There we
It's
go.
it's all about video marketing. It's all about the waterfall method, which I talk about a lot, and just personalization in video and how to use it to drive sales. And it's that book took me a year to write.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about that book is that I'm the author of it, but only by proxy, because it's from conversations like this where I'm able to actually quote unquote read.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, one of the things Warren Buffett says is to look for the job you would take if you didn't need a job.
Oh yeah.
If I didn't need a job and just had to just did stuff for fun, this is exactly what I would do, because I've learned so much from having conversations with these thought leaders that I put in my hopper and mix mash it around, and
Right.
it always comes out I spit it out on the other end, but it's all one big thing. And I've learned more talking to these people and talking to everyone that I communicate with these ways. That's what human beings do. That's why human beings are so dominant on the planet, is because we are social and we can share ideas. And 2 + 2 = 5. We get all that going on. We get the mojo, and one idea plus another idea equals a bigger, better idea. And
how about this one? 2 + 2 = 22.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
To your point, there was a great quote that I recently heard from Ricky Gervais, the MC that did the Golden Globes. He does them all the time. He's he's insane. He's talented. He's crazy, provocative. So he had a quote, and he told his agent. He said, the only gigs that I want are the ones that I would take if they were for free. That's the only ones I want to address right now. And his agent said, you better not tell that to anyone, because that's going to remove my leverage. But but I think the takeaway there is that when you get to a certain place in your career where you actually don't need the money necessarily, that's when you start to do the passion projects. And when you do the passion projects, that's when you're living your best self. That's when you're on your true purpose, where you actually are not doing it for the money. And
right.
Of course, that's where you can probably make the most money.
Right. By bringing your authentic self to it. That's my entire goal. Is I don't want anyone to look at me and to look at what I'm doing at that moment and be able to tell 100% whether I'm working or playing. I don't want anyone to know, I don't want people to know that. That's my business. So I want to live my life. I want to go through my life doing exactly what I want to do, making enough money to live my life exactly how I want to live. And I just want it to show up when I want it to show up. So that's where I want to be. So we're trying to get there.
Well, I mean, it sounds like you're kind of there. I mean, what I love about this conversation is that I've learned a lot from this conversation. I feel like I've built a relationship with you, and I want to work with you more. So,
yeah.
I think that's the value of content creation. And, what is this new form of digital networking where it combines content creation and just transparent storytelling? I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's called, but I'm a fan. And guess what? It's exactly what I'd be doing if I didn't need to make the money.
Yeah.
So where can people find you? LinkedIn, social channels, website?
Yeah, everywhere. The easiest way is to Google Terry Lancaster. I tell everyone I can't hide from the mafia. I better not owe anybody with big guns any money, because I'm impossible not to find. So Google Terry Lancaster, and Terry Lancaster is going to tell you where I'm at on LinkedIn and where I'm at on Facebook, and about my YouTube channel and about my podcast and about my website, terrylancaster.com. And it's going to tell you 6 or 7 times there on the front page that I help salespeople make more money, get more reviews, get more referrals by building better, stronger, more authentic human relationships, because that's exactly what I've trained Google to say. Which is the other thing about all this content is the more you spit it out, the more you're feeding the robots to help tell your story.
Right. Well, this is like Bruce Clay. I recently met him at a conference here in Los Angeles. He's the quote unquote father of SEO, and his company has produced so much content on how Bruce Clay is the father of SEO. And I believe he is. He's been in the game since early 90s.
Yeah.
But when you start to put content out there and it's backed up and it's got social proof, that becomes reality on the internet. So I really like how you just articulated that that's what you've trained Google to say. And hey, listen, I believe it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I imagine if you Google father of SEO, Bruce is going to show up pretty high, because he's fed the monster enough times. We have this unholy alliance. You feed the monster the content, that's what they want. They'll make you famous.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Nice, man. This was really good.
Well, good, man. I appreciate you having me on. So let's stay in touch, and let's keep spreading the word.
Nice, man. Thank you so much, Terry. Really appreciate you.
Thanks, Ruben. Thanks, buddy.
All right.